Revealed, the heartwarming moment when a billionaire's incredible condition transformed her life. Lily Carson woke before dawn, the scent of vanilla and butter wafting through the air, her bakery's sweet memories slowly coming alive. Each morning, she poured her heart into every pastry, from the buttery croissants to the rich red velvet cupcakes, intent on creating a warm embrace for her young daughter, Emma. The hustle and bustle of their suburban neighborhood swirled outside, but inside the bakery, there was a stillness, an oasis of comfort that cradled her aching heart. Just a few years ago, she was split open by her husband's unexpected departure, chasing dreams while breaking theirs apart. But she wouldn't let disappointment dictate her daughter's life. She would show Emma strength wrapped in love, built with sugar and devotion. Every day was a balancing act, juggling bills that threatened to collapse around her as she fashioned sweets that resonated nostalgia for her loyal customers. Hope simmered in her veins, even when fear crept into her thoughts, whispering relentless doubts. But there was always a smile from Emma waiting at the end of the day, a reminder of the love that fueled her, the very purpose that countered every struggle. Then, something unexpected shifted. Across the street, Grace Whitmore emerged, a billionaire known for her icy demeanor and towering mansion that commanded attention. Lily had heard the whispers. The community cast her as nothing other than a villain, a symbol of everything wrong with privilege. Grace's presence stirred resentments, and yet, it also ignited curiosity. What secrets lay beneath the surface of such wealth? Days turned into weeks, and Lily's bakery struggled. A sudden health crisis left her battling exhaustion, both physical and emotional. Just when despair tightened its grip, Grace stumbled into sweet memories, her features shadowed under layers of loneliness. Drawn in by the heavenly aromas, this woman, a representation of wealth and coldness, stood before Lily, her presence trembling with unspoken vulnerability. The moment felt electric. Engaged in quiet conversation over flour-dusted countertops, they shed their preconceived notions, revealing tender truths. They shared losses, fears of societal judgment, and the existential weight each wore. With each word uttered, they began to fill open wounds, stitching together fragments of their broken selves amid the warmth of baked goods. Then came a revelation. Grace had struggled with a chronic illness since childhood. "I've built walls around myself," she confessed, tears brimming. She wanted redemption, to alter the narrative tied to her name, to give back in ways she had never thought possible. The idea of a charity event glimmered. "Lily, will you help me?" Hope lit Grace's eyes as she laid her heart bare. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Working together became a flurry of energy, a storm of ambition that swept through the bakery. They stirred excitement, nurturing a bridge between their opposing worlds, while Lily taught Grace about the heartbeat of community connection, compassion, and the warmth of sharing. Yet shadows loomed, the debate over privilege rumbled through the neighborhood, and whispers twisted in the air, and as the charity event approached, conflict brewed. Just as the storm began to build, an unexpected crisis erupted from Grace's hidden world, threatening to unravel everything they'd worked for. Both women stood at a crossroads, each burdened by their past but united in a journey toward healing. Would they rise together against the shadows or be consumed by their fears? The answer hung in the balance, just waiting to be discovered. Lily stood in the warm embrace of her bakery, heart racing as she watched Grace pace back and forth, her expression shifting between hope and despair. What had once been an exhilarating collaboration was now tangled in uncertainty. "Lily, I need to figure this out," Grace insisted, her voice breaking like glass. "The charity event, it could fall apart if I don't breathe," Lily said, placing a gentle hand on Grace's arm. "This is about more than just the event. It's about you, it's about us. It's about people truly feeling what we're trying to do. But Grace's eyes drifted past Lily, focusing on the cool morning light spilling through the bakery windows. And what if they don't? What if all they see is my money, my past? A silence enveloped them, filled with the clamor of distant sirens and the rustle of leaves outside. This moment, heavy with vulnerability, crystallized their shared fears. People are forgiving, Lily reassured her. Let your journey tell the story, let them see that you're more than your name. The reality of their circumstances pressed down like the heat from the ovens. They had just a week before the charity event, and the preparations felt like trying to scale a mountain with cracked boots. Messages filled with judgment were seeping through the townsfolk, each whisper a stone thrown at the illusion of grace that surrounded them. Later that day, as Lily closed up the bakery, she felt a twinge of exhaustion more profound than physical tiredness. Sinking into a chair at a small table, she pulled out her phone, staring at the empty screen. It was an instinct to reach out to Emma, to hear her laughter, to find solace in her innocent kindness. But the moment was interrupted by a text from Grace. Can we meet at the park tomorrow? The next morning dawned brighter than usual, a golden light streaming down. The park felt green and vibrant, full of life, and yet inside Lily's heart fluttered with anxiety. When Grace arrived, she looked a little less polished, cheeks flushed with determination, her usually perfect hair slightly tousled by the wind. I've been thinking, Grace began, her voice steadying. What if we made the event personal? Instead of just speeches and fundraising, what if we shared our stories? Let people see how we're connected. Lily's brow furrowed, hesitation creeping in. But what if we lay ourselves bare only for people to tear us apart? Then we let them see us, Grace insisted. Flaws and all. Vulnerability is powerful. In that moment, something shifted. The idea tugged at Lily's heart, an invitation to start anew, where their intertwined lives could craft something beautiful amidst uncertainty. Days passed in a whirl of preparations and emotions, as excitement rippled through the bakery. The day of the charity event finally arrived, marked by a tension that felt electric. The community gathered in front of the bakery, skeptics mingling with supporters, and whispers wrapped around them like a shroud. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Lily clasped Grace's hand, each of them feeling the weight of what was at stake. Both women took the stage, hearts pounding as they prepared to reveal their stories. But just as Lily began to speak, a sudden commotion rose from the back of the crowd. A figure emerged, shouting accusations. Who do you think you are? Pretending to care. A gasp rippled through the audience, and Lily's heart sank. The moment teetered on the edge of possibility, hanging in the air like an unresolved chord. Would they falter under the harsh glare of judgment, or would they stand firm, ready to show the world who they truly were? The answer rested not just with Lily and Grace, but with everyone watching. Would they choose to understand, to embrace the power of shared humanity? The air crackled with tension, while hope flickered like a candle in the wind. Lily's breath caught in her throat, a tightness gripping her chest as she faced the growing sea of faces. They were a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and even anger, rippling through the crowd like a storm cloud ready to explode. She felt Grace's fingers tighten around hers, a silent affirmation that they would face this together. Please, Lily started, her voice wavering but resolute. Before you judge us, let us tell you why we're here. The whispers crescendoed, but there was no turning back. Who are you to play the hero? The voice from the back challenged. The figure moved closer, a middle-aged man with furrowed brows and clenched fists. What do you know about suffering? You're just a millionaire hiding behind a charity. The accusation landed like a punch to the gut. Grace visibly stiffened beside her, but Lily sensed the mix of pain and defiance rising within her. That's just it, Grace interjected, stepping forward. I know what it means to struggle. I've made mistakes, I've hurt people. But I've also learned that vulnerability connects us all. Lily could see Grace's heart on her sleeve, laid out for the world to see. It was brave, and it was terrifying. The crowd seemed to still as her words hung in the air. "Let me share my story with you," Grace continued, her voice gaining strength. "I didn't always have this life. I grew up hiding behind my family's name, terrified of being seen. I wanted to be perfect to fit in. But all it did was leave me lost and alone." A few people in the audience nodded, their anger giving way to curiosity. The atmosphere shifted, each individual leaning in a bit closer, as though craving connection and truth. "I've hurt people along the way," Grace admitted, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I believed that money could fix everything. But it doesn't. It can't buy compassion, or friendship, or love. I'm here because I want to do something real and I want to make amends." Lily felt a swell of pride. Grace was owning her past, raw and vulnerable, and it was beautiful to witness. The whispers began to soften, the tension in the air dissipating slightly. "And that's why we're fundraising today," Lily added, encouraged by Grace's bravery. "Not for us to feel good about ourselves, but to honor the stories of every person hurting in silence, including those who've been affected by Grace's actions." The crowd was fully engaged now, the energy shifting from skepticism to something more open. Lily took a breath, studying the faces before her. "We want to create a space where we can all share, heal, and grow together. Please, let us start a conversation." Just as she finished, a woman in the front stepped forward, her brows knitted. "But how do we know this isn't just a ploy?" "Because we're willing to be honest," Grace replied without hesitation. "Because vulnerability is our strength. If you take a chance on us, we promise to keep showing up." A moment of silence hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. Then, a hand shot up, trembling slightly. "What if we want to share our own stories?" The soft voice belonged to a young girl, clutching a worn-out teddy bear, moments away from revealing slow-brewed heartache. Lily's heart melted. "Then you absolutely should," she said, looking at Grace. "This is just the beginning." Eyes around the park began to sparkle with emotions, and one by one, people began to step forward. The heaviness of the air transformed into a warmth, a collective pulse of humanity craving connection. But amid this newfound hope, Lily felt a shiver down her spine as she noticed a dark figure lurking at the edge of the crowd. Someone was watching them, and the unease curled back into her. What did they want? As stories unfolded, a ripple of excitement began to settle in the audience, but a strange hush began to creep back. The figure stepped forward, and the crowd parted like water. "What is going on? What did you really expect from this event, Grace?" All eyes turned toward the newcomer, tension spiking again as Lily's heart thundered in her chest. Who was this person, and what did they want from Grace? Grace's expression shifted, apprehension flashing across her face. The air thickened with unanswered questions. Would they be able to continue this fragile connection they were building, or would the past pull them back under? A wave of silence swept through the crowd, every whisper dying on lips as eyes were glued to the figure who had just stepped into their midst. The newcomer was a tall man, with an air of authority that could demand respect even in the quietest room. His demeanor radiated danger, and as he approached, Lily felt a chill grip her heart. "Who are you?" Grace asked, her voice steady but edged with tension. The crowd shifted, uncertainty flickering across faces. The man smirked, as if he enjoyed holding all the cards. "You don't recognize me? You should. I'm Mark Reynolds, and I'm here because I want to understand why you're poking around in business that doesn't concern you." Lily's stomach twisted. Mark Reynolds was a name whispered in certain circles, one of the wealthiest and most powerful magnates in the area. They often heard rumors of his ruthless dealings, but she hadn't realized he'd come here today. "Why now?" "I know your reputation," Grace replied, crossing her arms defiantly. "And if you're here to disrupt our event, you're making a mistake." He stepped closer, the glint in his eye unnerving. "No, my dear. I'm here to help you understand the true nature of your situation. His voice was rich with condescension. Don't you think it's charming that you want to unite the misfits and the mistreated? But let us face it, how do you plan to fix what's broken when you're the one standing on shattered glass? Gasps echoed through the crowd, the energy shifting back toward anxiety as they sensed the impending conflict. Grace stood her ground, her chin lifted defiantly. We're not afraid of honesty. You're right, I've made mistakes, but trying to hide from my past won't work. I'm here to face it. Mark chuckled, casting a mocking glance at the wrinkled faces of the crowd. And do you truly believe they'll just accept you? They'll tear you apart the moment you slip. Lily's heart raced. She could feel each heartbeat pounding through her veins. Fear threatened to choke her words, but she shoved it down. We're all human. We've all struggled in this life. We're here because we want to connect, not to tear each other down. Mark's laughter was chilling, reverberating like thunder. Ah yes, but what do they know of you? They have every reason to doubt you. And what kind of leader are you, Grace, if you can't even convince them you're worth following? At that moment, silence blanketed the park once again. The doubts stared back at them. In searching for connection, they found shadows instead. But then, the girl with the teddy bear stepped forward. Her tiny voice cut through the air like a knife. I want to share my story. I have struggled, too. Nobody is perfect. Everyone turned to her, emotion washing over the crowd. Perhaps it was in that moment when Grace's vulnerability sparked something within them, a flicker of hope. Lily felt the tension begin to dissolve as people began to nod in agreement. We have all lost something, she added, urgency swelling in her chest. Everyone here deserves a chance to be heard, to heal. But Mark wasn't done. So what, Grace? Let your little charity turn into a cryfest? Is that your plan? He leaned in, his voice dripping with sarcasm. What happens if you fail? What happens if they see you for who you really are? Grace took a deep breath, her eyes never wavering from his. If I fail admitting who I am. And that's far more courageous than hiding behind my wealth. In facing the truth, we create room for healing. The truth in her voice echoed strongly among the crowd. The darkness that had loomed now created space for something brighter. Yet Mark's eyes narrowed, calculating. Lily scanned the crowd, sensing the fragile shift. Let us not allow fear to dictate our purpose. Let us rise together. But Mark was still lurking, hanging over them like a dark cloud, ready to unleash a storm. Would they be able to transform doubt and uncertainty into strength, and what would happen when the past refused to let go? As Lily steeled herself against the man's glare, a spark of heat ignited inside her. They could not waver now, their stories were just beginning. But little did they know, Mark wasn't just an obstacle. He was a storm brewing just outside their fragile bubble, one that could threaten everything they were trying to build. And what awaited them at the heart of it was a revelation no one was prepared for. A sharp breath cut through the silence, the tension palpable. Mark's smirk deepened, his eyes boring into Grace as if he were dissecting her very soul. The myriad expressions on the faces around her mingled disbelief with courage, creating a charged atmosphere. There was power in shared vulnerability, and for a fleeting moment, the crowd seemed to shift towards Grace. It's not just about your mistakes, Mark said, his voice now a low, dangerous whisper. It's about your inability to really understand the people you claim to help. He turned his gaze, scanning the remnants of their small gathering. You're reaching out to these people, sure, but at what cost? You're walking a tightrope, and I'd hate to see you drop. Lily clenched her fists, fighting against the instinct to flee. But she wouldn't back down from this fight. They deserve someone who not only knows their struggles but also acknowledges their strength, she countered, her voice steadier than she felt. The crowd murmured in quiet agreement, their faith bubbling beneath the surface like a shaken bottle of soda. Strength? Mark scoffed. Their strength will be useless if they're led down a path riddled with failure. They'll remember your failures, too, you know. He pointed a finger at Grace as if he were accusing her of a crime against humanity. I've seen countless leaders rise and fall. Don't think for a second I won't watch when you tumble. Then watch, Grace shot back. But I won't let you have the last word here. Your fears don't own me, they don't own any of us. Her voice rang out like a bell, sharp and clear, cutting through his words. Lily smiled with pride. Grace was right, this was their moment to claim control. The crowd's energy surged once again. There was something undeniable about embracing vulnerability, and seeing Grace shine ignited even the quietest voices. One by one, others began to step forward, sharing their own stories of struggle and resilience. An older man spoke of losing his job, a mother revealed the burden of caretaking without help. Each voice lifted the spirits of those around them, drowning out Mark's manipulative poison. Lily felt the warmth of community envelop her. They weren't alone. It was exhilarating and healing at the same time. But amidst this burgeoning sense of unity, Mark's demeanor shifted. He seemed irritated, but something deeper lurked behind his eyes. Was it fear? Fine, he said slowly, his tone chilling. Play your little games. But when shit hits the fan and you'll realize you're overlooking some very dangerous people. Silence fell upon them. The atmosphere thickened, tension hanging like a shadow. You think fear is what drives us, Mark? It's what fuels you, Grace said, her voice even. We're not afraid to share our grief or our failures. Learn from it, if you can. Mark's eyes glinted with something dark, and Lily shivered. You don't know what you're getting into. I'm not just a businessman, I have my fingers in places you wouldn't imagine. His grin was unsettling, but a flicker of resolve shone in Grace's eyes. As the tension hung in the air, the girl with the teddy bear stepped forward again. I might be small, she chirped, loudly, but my heart is big. We all can share and be better. That innocent declaration sparked laughter and nods, but Mark's face hardened. I suggest you watch your backs, all of you, he replied, voice low but intense, before turning sharply and walking away, leaving an unmistakable chill in his wake. The crowd exchanged worried glances. Did you hear that? A whispered voice echoed. What does he mean by that? Lily felt a knot in her stomach. He might be more than what he seems, she confessed to Grace. But we can't let him intimidate us. The question lingered in the air, what hidden threats did Mark harbor? As they gathered strength, Lily felt a warmth in her chest. They were stronger together, but was Mark's warning just an empty threat? The night was just getting started, and she knew the dangers were far from over. A storm was brewing, and they needed to prepare. What awaited them next would test everything they had fought for. Grace took a deep breath, letting the hushed whispers of concern wash over her. She felt the warmth of solidarity around her but couldn't shake off the chill that Mark had left behind. The girl with the teddy bear's words replayed in her mind, my heart is big. And she wanted to believe that, despite the heaviness in the air. Let us not lose hope, everyone, she said, her voice ringing with determination. Mark thinks he's won by scaring us. He thinks he can divide us, but we're here together. His threats only show how weak he feels. We'll keep sharing our stories. A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd, and Lily squeezed Grace's arm, her touch a reminder of why they were fighting. The stories shared so far had built a bridge between them, but the knot in Lily's stomach tightened. What do you think he meant by dangerous people? She asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Grace admitted. But whatever it is, we need to stay alert. We've got to be smart about this. If we want to keep moving forward, we can't let fear dictate our actions. The group began to disperse, some still engaged in quiet conversation. Grace and Lily remained rooted to the spot, an unspoken agreement between them to strategize. They needed a plan, a way to turn Mark's intimidation into fuel for their mission. As they gathered information from others about what they could do next, a woman stepped forward, her face worn but fierce. "I've seen what Mark can do," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "He doesn't just know how to manipulate people, he knows how to hurt them. We need to be careful." Concern rippled through the crowd. Grace took a moment, her heart racing. "We can't approach this with fear," she declared again. "We have to approach this with strength, just like we did tonight. We need to support one another and make our circle bigger. The more of us there are, the harder it'll be for him to take us down." The crowd began to rally together again, their whispers turning into shared laughter and uplifting memories. The woman who had spoken earlier smiled and nodded in agreement. "She's right. Together, we can build something stronger than fear." As the night continued, stories transformed into plans. Ideas began bubbling up about organizing a community event, a gathering to celebrate their stories of resilience. It became an anchor for their hopes. Amidst the laughter, hope, and connection, Grace felt something shift inside her. It was the realization that even in the darkest times, light could break through. But just as that thought took root, she caught a glimpse of Mark lingering at the edge of the gathering, his expression unreadable. Lily noticed her gaze and followed it. "What is he doing?" she whispered, tension tightening between them again. "I don't know," Grace replied, unease creeping back in. "But we need to take this seriously. We've awakened something in him, and I'm afraid he'll retaliate. We've opened our hearts, and that can make us vulnerable." The air thickened as Mark stepped forward, his presence casting a shadow over the warmth they had built. He surveyed the gathering, and Grace could feel his glare. He seemed calm, yet the chaos inside him felt palpable. "Good luck," he sneered, voice dripping with condescension. "You're going to need it." With that, he turned and walked away, but not before Grace caught a flicker of something more in his eyes, a flash of anger or perhaps regret. It sent a wave of doubt washing over her. "Did he really just wish us luck?" Lily asked, incredulous. "I don't know, but it feels like a warning," Grace murmured, uncertainty creeping back. "We can't let our guard down." As the crowd continued their plans, Grace felt the pressure mount. This was not just about sharing stories anymore. This was war. And they were gearing up for a fight they never anticipated. But would they be ready for the battles that lay ahead? The next day dawned crisp and clear, the sun casting long shadows on the pavement as Grace and Lily gathered notes and sketches for their upcoming community event. They chose a park at the heart of their town, a place where laughter had once echoed without hesitation. Now, it felt like the backdrop of an impending showdown. "Do you think Mark will come?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with worry. She squinted against the bright sunlight, her fingers absent-mindedly fidgeting with the edge of a pamphlet. "He might, but we can't let him overshadow us," Grace replied firmly. "This is our moment to shine. It's about showing our community what we stand for." As they chatted, a buzz of excitement and anxiety filled the air. Volunteers began arriving, eager to contribute, hoping their stories would resonate with others. Grace noticed the hurried movements, the hopeful smiles, and she felt a flicker of warmth. It was a collective heartbeat, a promise that they were stronger together. The preparations took shape, tables decorated with bright labels, colorful balloons swaying gently in the breeze, and their mission statement plastered boldly on a banner. Every detail mattered, yet Grace's mind wandered back to Mark's ominous words. Would the event truly mark a turning point, or would it ignite a firestorm? As the gathered crowd began to buzz, Grace took a hesitant step toward the microphone. Her heart raced, but she pushed through. "Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community, a family that supports and uplifts one another." A wave of encouragement surged through the crowd as cheers erupted. Grace found her footing. Let us celebrate our resilience and creativity. This is about finding hope in every story, including ours, which shows how love and connection can conquer fear. Lily stood off to the side, watching her friend hold the crowd in the palm of her hand. Then, from the corners of her vision, she spotted a familiar face. Mark lingered at the perimeter, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. She clenched her fists. Would he dare to disrupt this? Against the hopeful backdrop of laughter, a distant tension filled the air. Mark's presence darkened the sun, and Grace felt it too. Just as people began to share their tales of transformation, she noticed whispers falling into anxious hushes when Mark approached. "Anyone can tell a story," Mark called out, his voice slicing through the joy like a knife. "But can anyone actually face the truth?" Gasps echoed from the crowd as Grace stepped forward, gathering her courage. "What truth, Mark? The truth of our pain? Or the strength we find in overcoming it?" He smirked, a dangerous glint in his eye. "You really think this will work? You think these little stories will protect you?" Before Grace could respond, a young boy with a big heart, the same child from the night before who carried a teddy bear, bounded forward. "My heart is big," he shouted, unafraid. "And it can't be scared by you." Lily felt the group's mood shift, rallying behind the boy's courage. Grace's heart soared, realizing how one courageous voice could ignite many more. "See? That's the power," she shouted, her joy flooding the space. But Mark's lips curled into a sinister smile. "I hope you're ready for what's coming. You can't hide from the storm forever." Panic flickered through the crowd, the safety net of the gathering feeling visibly strained. Grace's determination ignited. "We are ready. There's more strength in our unity than you can ever understand." But as the crowd braved the storm, doubts trickled in. Grace felt a shiver run through her. Would their strength truly hold up against the darkness that loomed? As the first clouds gathered ominously overhead, she stood firm. This fight was theirs to win, but how far would it truly go? And just when they thought they were prepared, an unexpected twist loomed on the horizon, waiting to be revealed. Grace felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She looked around at the faces in the crowd, some still wide with hope, others shadowed by uncertainty. It was bizarre how quickly the mood shifted. The sunlight seemed to dim every time Mark raised his voice. Yet within her heart, the young boy's words resonated, a bright beacon amid the gathering clouds. "Let us get back to our stories," Grace shouted, her voice filling with renewed energy. "Together, we can break through the fear. Who would like to share next?" A woman stepped forward, her hands trembling but her eyes bright with determination. "I have a story," she began, her voice steadying as she spoke. "When I lost my job, I thought my world was over. I was scared and alone. But I reached out to this community, and you all helped me find a new path." Cheers erupted again, lifting the atmosphere. The crowd was finding their rhythm, the initial shock from Mark's intrusion fading as they leaned into their narratives of resilience. Grace's heart soared as stories flowed like a gentle stream, tales of love, loss, revival. Each voice was a thread woven into a larger tapestry of hope. But just as her spirits were lifted, she felt Mark's gaze piercing through the joy. His presence loomed like a shadow, a reminder that the storm was not over. "Good speeches change reality," he threw out again, his tone dismissive. "You can't ignore the truth. This place is built on secrets. Why pretend you're something you're not?" Gasps filled the air, sharp and piercing. Grace turned toward him. "You talk about the truth, Mark, but you've never had to face your own. We are here, standing in our reality, and we embrace it." Before he could reply, a middle-aged man, with kind eyes, stepped into the light. "I may not know all the truths, but I know the power of a community. Together, we became a family when we faced our own fears. And that's the truth worth sharing." Another wave of applause erupted, this time louder, more defiant. Grace felt the power of unity wrapping around everyone like a warm blanket. She could see it in their expressions, the determination to push forward, to remain unbroken in the face of whatever Mark would throw at them. Mark's smile disappeared, replaced with a scowl. You think your little stories can protect you from what's really out there? A young woman with vivid red hair stepped forward, her voice steady and unwavering. Mark, you may think you know what's out there, but we're learning together. And that's stronger than anything you can throw at us. Her words hung in the air, electric. Were they truly stronger together? Grace felt the weight of those words, learning together, transforming fears into connections. But another thought gnawed at her. If they pushed through Mark now, what awaited them afterward? What truths hid in the depths of her own heart? As thunder rumbled in the distance, a tension thickened the air. Fear mixed with the exhilarating pulse of bravery. Would the storm deliver them closer to their potential, or would it tear them apart? Just then, behind Mark, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows. Grace squinted, unsure if her mind was playing tricks. Who was this newcomer? Was this support or a new threat ready to destabilize everything they were fighting for? Her heart raced. The questions tightened around her mind. What would this unexpected twist mean for their gathering? They had come together as one, but would they stand united against whatever darkness crept closer? The figure stepped forward, and everything went silent, holding its breath in anticipation. The figure stepped out of the shadows, and Grace's breath caught in her throat. It was a woman, tall and confident, with bright blue eyes that sparkled even in the dim light. Her dark hair fell around her shoulders like a cascading waterfall, and there was something strangely familiar about her presence. Hello everyone, the woman said, her voice warm yet commanding. I'm here to support Grace and all of you. She scanned the crowd, meeting the eyes of those who looked at her both with hope and apprehension. What do you want? Mark challenged, stepping forward with a scowl. You think you can waltz in here and make a difference? What makes you so special? The woman smiled, an expression of genuine kindness that seemed to wash over the tension in the air. I'm not here to argue with you, Mark. I understand fear can be powerful, believe me, I've faced my own battles. But you don't know our struggles. Someone from the crowd shouted, anger rising in their voice. Actually, I do, the woman replied, holding up her hands as if to calm the waves of doubt. I've walked through some dark places myself. Just like many of you, I've felt lost, afraid, and ashamed of my failures. Grace stepped closer, intrigued. What did you learn? The newcomer turned her gaze to Grace, her blue eyes reflecting a shared understanding. I learned that the true measure of strength isn't found in isolation but in connection. The moment I began to share my story with others, I not only found my own healing, but I also discovered a community that lifted me up. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Hope ignited in the air like sparklers, illuminating hearts that were once overshadowed by doubt. Why should we believe you? Mark interjected again, his voice dripping with skepticism. What have you done that's so different from what we've shared? I've turned my life into something beautiful after almost losing it all, she replied, her voice steady. I built a foundation dedicated to helping those in need understand their value beyond the struggles and the judgments. I want to help you all find your own voices and heal together. There it was, a hint of something more. A promise that resonated deep within Grace's soul. This woman didn't just offer hope, she brought the possibility of tangible help. Could their stories truly evolve into something greater with her support? As the crowd murmured, a mix of skepticism and curiosity emerged. For some, it felt too good to be true. Grace could see it in their uncertain glances. But for others, the idea of connection and support sparkled like a distant star within reach but still shrouded in shadow. What do you say, friends? The newcomer continued. Can we face the storm together? You bring your truth, and I will bring resources to guide you. Let us transform fear into strength. Suddenly, Mark burst out. You think you can just waltz in and save these people? They don't need a fairy tale ending. Grace took a deep breath, her heart pounding. But maybe that's exactly what we need, Mark. A chance to rewrite our stories. What do we have to lose? In that moment, the tension snapped like a taut string. Eyes turned to each other, the energy shifting from doubt to something far more powerful possibility. As Grace's voice rose above the whispers, she felt a spark ignite inside her. Would they embrace this new chance? Or would Mark's words chain them in fear? The woman standing before them seemed to glow with hope. Grace could hardly wait to hear more about the resources and opportunities waiting in the wings. But just then, as dark clouds rolled overhead threatening to unleash a storm, a crack of thunder echoed through the air. This sudden shift sent a ripple of apprehension through the crowd, reminding them that their journey was far from over. Who was this woman? What connections did she truly have? And could her arrival really change everything they thought they knew? The air buzzed with uncertainty as Grace realized this could either be a breakthrough or another spin of the wheel, leading them deeper into chaos. The storm brewing overhead coincided perfectly with the turmoil within Grace. The crowd still buzzed with uncertainty, eyes flicking between her, Mark, and the newcomer. But there was something electric about this woman standing boldly before them, an aura of unwavering belief. Let us share the real stories, Grace urged, raising her voice above the whispers. Let us break down the walls that separate us. Together, we can make a difference. The newcomer, still radiating warmth, nodded. Exactly. Every one of you has value to offer, experiences that could inspire others. We just need to welcome each other into the light. Mark stepped forward again, his voice sharp as a knife. And what makes you think your stories matter? Stories don't feed people, and they don't pay bills. The crowd tensed again, Mark's words hitting home for many who had felt the weight of financial struggles and judgment. Grace clenched her fists. They matter because they build bridges, Mark. They foster understanding and community. People need to see they aren't alone. Another voice emerged from the back, one filled with hesitation but also courage. I got through my darkest days because I realized there were others facing similar things. I didn't have the answers, but knowing I wasn't alone made all the difference. That was it. More voices joined in as others began to share their own narratives. Stories poured out like rain, sharing losses, victories, and moments of vulnerability. Laughter mingled with tears, and for each story told, a connection was forged beneath the shared weight of empathy. Mark's expression hardened. He had underestimated the power unfolding before him. You think this will save you? He barked, his frustration palpable. But the moment had shifted. Grace leaned into the energy of the crowd, her heart racing, an unexpected adrenaline coursing through her. Yes. We're choosing connection over fear. We're deciding to stand together. This community is capable of so much more than you believe, Mark. As the stories continued, Mark's defiance flickered, replaced by growing disbelief. Keep talking like this, and you'll see just how misguided your little story fest really is, he retorted, but doubt laced his words. Then, the newcomer, the woman with bright blue eyes, took a step forward. Mark, maybe you should turn your thoughts inward. Your behavior stems from fear, and it's sad to see someone so powerful driven by such insecurity. And you think you'll save them? You? You know nothing about this community. I know they have strength in their shared stories. I know they're tired of being silenced. She turned to Grace and the crowd, heart glowing with shared understanding. Together, let us create something real. Let us ensure everyone feels seen. More shouts of agreement rang out, hearts swelling with hope. Grace felt herself uplifted by the surrounding warmth and determination. Each story shared created a circle of trust so tight that it could withstand the storm outside. People are watching us, Grace said, her voice rising with fervor. They are listening. This is our defining moment. Mark threw his hands up and took a step back, frustration boiling as he realized he had lost control of this narrative. The crowd surged forward, emboldened by their shared truths. And just then, the first raindrop fell, gentle yet solid, a reminder that the storm above might also be cleansing. More droplets followed, quickening into a downpour that matched the rising excitement in the air. "Let us not just weather this storm," Grace said, shouts of support surrounding her. "Let us embrace it. Let the rain wash away the doubts, let it reinforce that we're healing together." As the crowd cheered, Grace looked into the faces of others who lifted her spirits. The spark of community ignited fiercely, turning trepidation into determination. Mark's face grew gray as the crowd began to chant the truth of their unity, echoing the woman's earlier words about strength in vulnerability. "Can't hide from the storm forever," he muttered, retreating further. But Grace and Lily held each other's gaze, beacons of hope amidst chaos. The battle had transformed into one of unity and love, something no amount of wealth could overshadow. From this point, they would rise, transformed not by outside circumstances but by the connection blooming between them. With the storm raging fiercely above, Grace lifted her chin, ready to embrace whatever came next. They had created a safe rhythm of sharing, and now all that remained was to water that seed with their shared stories. As thunder rumbled, it carried a promise: they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together. And in the heart of chaos, they discovered hope, the thread stitching their shattered pieces into one resilient tapestry. In that moment, they were a family, a fierce community that would embrace each other's truth. As the rain poured down, washing away fear, they stood united. Their transformation became unstoppable. The new chapter was just beginning, the one that promised healing, growth, and the beautiful bond of humanity. Life was changing, and they were finally ready to face it head-on. Now, let us make sure the world hears this story. You need to subscribe now to catch all these exclusive, heartwarming tales. Leave a like now to fuel this incredible journey. We can't do it without you. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about our ending and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need this kind of inspiration. This is the moment to show your support and help others find their own stories of transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to help us spread the light.